I used to work for Fiat. I don't know if any of you now know Fiat. Fiat is merging with Chrysler at the moment. I used to work in the States, then I went to London, France. Then I changed career. I started selling, I don't know if you are aware of luxury yachts, you know, the big ones. So I started selling them in all Asia, from Middle East, North Africa to China and India, to very rich people mostly. So now I'm working as a consultant in international, in cross-cultural negotiations, mergers and everything, because what I learned from my experience is that when you have international negotiations, it's not only about price. A lot of issues come up, and so you have to be careful in handling them in the correct way. In front of you, you have the specific paper for one of the parties involved in the negotiation.
Sheet of paper that kind of gives you confidential information from
the union's
perspective. If you're in the center of the room, it's a white piece of paper, and you have the confidential information for Tata Motors. And if you're on the other side of the room, you have a blue sheet of paper, and you're going to be playing with the Ford representatives in this negotiation.
Well, we look at cash flows of JLR over the last 3 years, and you know, the EBIT over the last 3 years is just in my mind. It's you guys lost $300 million, so the future value of losing $300 million is probably not $18 billion.
The future value of losing.
We're looking at the company that you're buying as well, but also what this represents for you. And this represents sort of an upgrade of your image for being this localized Indian company that makes these tiny small cars, drives around to a world-class management team that is able to run operations all over the world. So I think this is an opportunity for you to really to up your game at a global level. And so I think in terms of valuing this worst-case scenario is not realistic or fair either.
So the communication, when you speak to a higher context culture, should be a bit less aggressive, a less direct. That's very important. You have to learn to adjust your communication style to whoever you have in front of you. And it's not only about culture, but also about people. For example, when I used to live in the States, I used to be very direct and very low context. Means what I say is what I think I say. But when you talk to a Chinese person, an Arab person, an Indian person, you have to be more careful. You don't say everything you think. You go around the point, maybe too much. And that's also because there is a different perception of time. For some cultures, time is linear and finite. Time is money. And that's how we learn time management, meeting management. But for most of the world, time is something like that, crazy. Think about Indians that have, they believe in reincarnation. For them, time is circular. Okay, that's religion, but it also affects culture and business. Most of the new Indian managers, they think like Americans in a linear way. But you still find people that think in a more spiral, crazy way. So time management is different. And also the task you make. Here you make one thing at a time. In many cultures, they are polychronic. So you just take more tasks altogether. Like you answer the phone, you speak, and something like that, please. Where is Tata from? For the Indian public opinion, having an Indian company acquiring the old colonizers, it's a great deal. You know, they play cricket in India. So last year they won the World Cup in cricket. But some people say that there were more people having, let's say, celebrating the deal between Tata and Jaguar Land Rover than people celebrating for the Cricket World Cup. For them, it is a question of pride. These are, we still call them emerging markets. They are in some way. But really the power is shifting towards east and south in the world. And they are acquiring credibility. So that's very important. But Tata has been very good in thinking about which were the interests of all the parties involved. And they didn't leave much room to Ford to negotiate for the price, because they had the support of the British government, the British public opinion through the unions, and the unions. So that's very important. They understood which were the key stakeholders. One constraint that Ford had was time. They wanted to get rid of the cash-draining brands. And for them it was very important. They had the worst year ever in 2006. In 2007 they were doing better. At the end of 2008 they had one of the best years ever. Also because they sold these two brands. Now many analysts are questioning if it was the right choice to be made. But they are questioning it today, not in 2007, 2008. Just remember, international negotiations, it's very important to be flexible. We all learn how to negotiate. BATNA, goals, priorities, and everything. But international negotiation is very important to understand the interests of the other parties involved, their constraints, and to adapt our communication style to theirs. How we say things is as important, or maybe more important, what we say. If we are too aggressive, even if we say very sound things, it's not good. It's not good in some communications, in some negotiations. Be careful on that. You know your goals, you have your priorities, you know your interests, but at the end, to support them, use a communication style that is different according to the people you have in front of you.
Why did he do so well? Why did he understand what it took to make this negotiation work, presumably better than the Unite leaders and the Ford leaders who didn't really push him as hard as they could have? Well, I think he having made a lot of international acquisitions before, had a very good understanding that sort of global negotiations differ in three basic ways from sort of domestic negotiations that we're used to. You can think about this as it sort of reflects the politics of the society that your party is based in. So Labour is a really strong party in the UK, more than it is here. It's also a strong party in India. So it's a party that Tata was very aware of and sort of proactively reassured Labour in all different kinds of ways. I think it's also fair to say that Tata went about his early acquisitions knowing that they would sort of create a reputation. You can think about this as it sort of reflects the politics of the society that your party is based in. So Labour is a really strong party in the UK, more than it is here. It's also a strong party in India. So it's a party that Tata was very aware of and sort of proactively reassured Labour in all different kinds of ways. I think it's also fair to say that Tata went about his early acquisitions knowing that they would sort of create a reputation that would be useful later on. So that the way that they handled the Daewoo acquisition some years before, is they were even willing to what was it that everyone had to lose their mustaches because the Korean managers didn't want any managers with mustaches for some reason. So some sort of cultural taste. But Tata has been very accommodating in the way that it's handled these earlier negotiations, and I think that really reassured the JLR people in this bigger negotiation. Now the final thing is, what do the parties care most about? What are their interests? And it's always an error in a negotiation to assume that their interests are a mirror image of your own. Often it's the case that Ford wants, in this case, that there won't be a lot of layoffs in the UK, is also quite consistent with what Tata wants. What do the parties care most about? What are their interests? And it's always an error in a negotiation to assume that their interests are a mirror image of your own. Often it's the case that what Ford wants, in this case, that there won't be a lot of layoffs in the UK, is also quite consistent with what Tata wants, at least for the medium term. And in order to understand the interests accurately, you kind of have to understand the institutional pressures of their business environment. Tata didn't have a lot of pressure to have short-term financial performance from this acquisition, because Tata is kind of run by a foundation. It's not under the same pressure to shareholders that an American firm would be, and that enabled Tata to make certain promises that another firm might not have been able to make. And so, being aware that you have these capacities that other bidders might not have, being aware of what constraints the other sides have, is really important to know what to ask for and what concessions will be valuable. The key lesson here should be that getting out of your own perspective and thinking about other perspectives is really the key to understanding what will make an international acquisition work, and the key to understanding how to negotiate it. And I think Tata, from long experience of making acquisitions, did sort of a masterful job in this case.
When we learn about negotiation, it's all about preparation and the process. Remember the third P, that is people. The result of a negotiation, especially if it's an intercultural negotiation, is affected by the relationship between the people. We don't make deals with people we don't like. And that's very important in international negotiations. So be aware of that. Second thing, never let your emotions get on the way. Even if the unions are very aggressive, stay calm. It's not about who is wrong, who is right, it's about your goals. Okay? Always remember that. This is one of the key elements of a negotiation. Never let emotions get on the way of your objective, of your goal. Thank you.